conferences. There's been a lot that's gone on. So let's switch to the video and have a look at the highlights for this year. Thereafter, we'll be joined by the COO of Geek Culture, Mr. Tiani Ngonyama.
I think I need to mute something. Is it better?
Yeah, that is better.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My name is Mteto Nyati, and I'm the CEO of Altron. I have never always been the CEO. For many years, I was a student like you, but I had dreams, and I acted on those dreams. And I believe each and every one of you have got that potential in yourselves to be the person that you want to be. Never stop chasing your dreams and your goals. I am rooting for you. I am betting on all of you.
Built a world map that identifies the number of people that traveled from the countries that are infected with the coronavirus into South Africa from December until this point. So that will help us, make a predictive model to see the likelihood of the infections that we have in South Africa.
Essentially, GKSS decided to be part of this as they saw fit to help TVET students and also to participate and see what other students are doing, in the tech scene.
So there you guys have it. That was our highlight video for the year 2020. And like I say, despite COVID-19, despite everything that has happened, we have made it, guys. So yes, without further ado, I will be introducing our first keynote speaker. And yeah, so the first keynote speaker we'll be joined by is Ms. Pumela Selala. So after this quick little sting, we'll be joined by Ms. Pumela Selala.
Excellencies, the founders of Geek Culture, Tiani Ngonyama and Misho Ngobeni, whom I have known for years now. And I wish to acknowledge Mr. McLean Sibanda, through whom I met Tiani and Misho, even before Geek Culture was formed, or born, if I may say. It is such connections that should be acknowledged, particularly in public platforms, so that each of us can see ourselves as connectors. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, program director, thank you for the opportunity for me to be part of these celebrations, the Geek Culture Student Society Awards that are here to recognize and to celebrate student leadership onto fellow students. We are meeting against the backdrop of two major disruptions globally. One is COVID, and two is the fourth industrial revolution. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought about abrupt, deep, and lasting turbulence and unpredictable patterns of change to all levels of humans. And this is humans. In some ways, the changes were forced upon the world through the current pandemic. The impact has been social, economic, political, and geopolitical. We have seen a shift from globalization to what is called slowbalization. It's a term that has been formed now during COVID times, which in essence really speaks to the slowing of the economy and the slowing of globalization itself. The fourth industrial revolution is disrupting every industry in every country. The breadth and the depth of the changes herald the transformation of the entire systems of production, of management, and of governance. And the fourth industrial revolution has altered the economic, the societal, and political conditions. This year, on International Youth Day, on the 12th of August 2020, we saw a report under the title, Greater Inclusion of African Youth in Public Service and Governance, being launched. The focus of this report is less on making the self-evident case for the need for young people to operate in governance and the policy realm. Rather, the focus is on how progress can be accelerated and how the African Union member states can achieve greater youth inclusion, given that they say that the African Youth Charter, which was formulated in 2006, which enshrines the rights, the duties, and the freedoms of African youth, especially participation in the decision-making process, has still not been fully implemented. Added to that, the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the urgency of the need for more inclusive governance going forward, with young Africans being at the fore of generating solutions and innovations. There are 4 themes that the African Youth Report highlights. Theme 1 is lowering political and economic barriers to formal participation of young people. Theme 2 is fostering intergenerational learning in public service. Theme 3 is formalizing roles for independent young technocrats. And theme 4 is institutionalizing the means of youth civic engagement. So you may be asking, what does this mean for you as the young leaders gathered here today? You see, if you are not sitting at the dinner table, you are part of the menu. Every knife, every fork at the dinner table will be choking you. It is thus important for you as the young leaders to be part of the discourse and part of the governance that will shape Africa going forward. One of Africa's greatest leaders, Sekou Toure, once said, each generation must, out of its relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. You are born for such a time as this. You are born to be drivers of the change that you want to see. I believe in ICT as an enabler for development. So each of you who are gathered here is actually sitting in the right place to be able to use technology to address the inequalities and the underdevelopment that we find in our societies. There is a concept of social entrepreneurship and systems entrepreneurship that I want to encourage, whereby you must not be afraid to make money from your innovations. You must not be afraid to make money from the ideas that you develop whilst providing innovative solutions to society's problems. I am impressed by the work of Geek Culture Student Society in your 2-pronged pillars, the first being building student tech, and the other being innovation and leadership capacity. And that you are focusing on HIV and AIDS data queues, that you are focusing on information security, games development, girls student, ICT classrooms, and many others is quite impressive as well. It's equally impressive. I trust that you will find ways in which you can monetize your innovative capabilities and to build them in such a way that they become global brands in the end. The emergence of OIR on the African continent will need radical economic transformation. Accordingly, the intra-Africa trade remains low compared to other regions in the world, such as the European Union and Asia. As a result, Africa needs to increase its production base of export manufacturing and focus on facilitating the movement of goods across borders in competitive ways. And there has been encouraging progress on this front. In July 2018, South Africa joined among almost 50 other countries on the continent in signing the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which seeks to create a single continental market for goods and for services with free movement of business and persons and investments. About 1.2 billion people on the African continent, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area would create one of the largest free trade market zones in the world. And Africa has grown its digital leapfrogging capabilities in the past through the digital transformation. And this is the area that we are seeing growth in the continent at the moment. And to this end, South Africa as a nation is ensuring that it is part of the important global discussions pertaining to the fourth industrial revolution, because Africa cannot afford to be left behind. And so this presents a great opportunity for you as the tech geeks, if I may call you that, from a point of view of admiration. You are the game changers. And I want to encourage you to be part of the generation that is called forth for the freeing of Africa. I would also like to encourage you to look beyond the borders of our beloved continent, whereby you start seeing yourselves as global Africans who have an equal voice in positioning Africa globally. Each of you must become ambassadors of Africa across the world and articulate the Africa that we know and not the Africa that we are told. There is an African proverb that says, until the hunted tell their stories, the stories of the hunter and the hunted will always glorify the hunter. Finally, Jim Rohn once said, all good men and women must take responsibility to create legacies that will take the next generation to a level only we could imagine. And Nelson Mandela once said, sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that generation. Let your greatness blossom. Thank you for this opportunity for me to speak my heart to you.
Great stuff. And there you have it, folks. Thank you so much, Ms. Kumela, for sharing that with us. And I hope to the geeks out there, you took something really important with you. Let's build those legacy businesses. Let's live up, to our duty as the generation that we are to build and to continue our legacies as such. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Mr. Dario, developer and inspirational speaker. So he will be joining us next after the break. Thank you.
And really, I want to share some of the kind of like lessons and interesting things that I think I learned, which are interesting because I only can see them in hindsight, but maybe they will be useful to some of you in the future. So my name is Dari Mungoy. I'm a software developer, senior software developer here at Shopify. I'm currently living in Canada, but I'm originally from Mozambique. So fun fact about me is that I'm a native Portuguese speaker, which is what I talk the most, especially now working from home with my family. We talk mostly Portuguese instead of English. And I've been working at Shopify for the last 3 years. And I'm not going to share more details now because that's basically what I'm going to talk throughout my presentation. So basically it all started with a hackathon. And this was back in 2013. I was still in university. And then the Ministry of Science and Technology in Mozambique organized a hackathon for us, because the idea is that there were some problems. One of the rivers, the longest rivers that crosses the country, was flooding. And so a lot of people were losing their livelihoods, lost their places. So the government decided to organize a hackathon to try to find solutions for these things. And that was my first experience with a hackathon. So I went there to participate. But apart from all the brainstorming and all the amazing people that I met, one of the remarkable persons I've met during that hackathon was Audrey Malabi. And he was invited to this hackathon to give like a short training about Android development. So after the training, I went to reach out to Audrey because I was super impressed with the whole Android development world that it opened up to me. And he talked about the Innovation Lab in Pretoria and also MLab, the Innovation Hub, sorry, in Pretoria, and also MLab and Geek Culture. And I was super intrigued about this. And a few weeks later, he ended up like extending an invitation to me, asking if I wanted to come and meet the Geek Culture and all the developer ecosystem back in South Africa. And I couldn't be more excited. And at the time, I remember I was 20. I've never been out of the country by myself. And I went to my mom and told her that I wanted to travel to South Africa alone. And as you might guess, the response was that that was not possible. I ended up resorting to another appeal to my father instead. And then they came to an agreement that I would be able to go, but I wouldn't be able to go alone. So I ended up picking up another 3 of my friends who had interest in going there as well. And we decided to make a journey from Maputo to Johannesburg first, and then to Pretoria to be able to go to MLab. There's all sort of stories about that trip, and but we'll probably cover in another time. So when we went there, we ended up like meeting Misho, and we went to the MLab. I remember there was a workshop at the Innovation Hub, and it was Charles Mazo, and he was talking about seeing the leaves. There was this workshop that it was titled Seeing the Leaves, and it was super amazing. And in one of the breaks, we went to the MLab. That's when I first met Misho and Tiani and other folks, Raul, Ruth, Noli. And it was really, really good. And I was super excited because it was really nice to be on a place with like-minded people. And they had like all full support and pretty much everything that I've dreamed on at that point in time. So if you're really curious about how this was, you can check out this video that Misho recorded of us. I was watching it yesterday, and it's unbelievable how shy we were on camera, but at the same time, off camera, we were super excited and looking and playing with all the gadgets at the MLab. So I'm not going to play it. So right after that meeting with the Geek Culture team, we ended up going back home to Mozambique after a few days in Pretoria. And one of the things that I've been thinking about was like, how can I stay connected to the geek culture? And I know at the time, and even today, geek culture is very active on Twitter. But I wasn't personally super active on Twitter. To be honest, I didn't even know how to use Twitter, so I was afraid I wouldn't be able to like understand what was going on. So I thought to myself, like, maybe the only thing I need to understand about Twitter is like this hashtag that they put for geek culture every time. And I ended up using this Twitter hashtag to pretty much build an app that will help people not in South Africa to be able to kind of like stay connected with what geek culture was doing. So the app ended up being released in September 2013. And as you can see on the screenshot, it was basically 2 tabs, one for the videos. Again, Misho is still a prolific, video creator, and he likes to talk to geeks. So there was this tab on YouTube that was basically pulling all the geek culture, all the videos from the geek culture YouTube channel. And there was this hashtag tab that was basically pulling all the hashtag the information from Twitter from geek culture. So this was the way I was able to pretty much keep up with what was going on with geek culture. And to develop this, I leaned a lot into the folks at Geek Culture in South Africa for reviews, and we pretty much had a very solid line of communication around what to do, getting the assets, and so on. So it was a really fun time, and really, this was the first app I ever published to the Play Store, and to this date, I still cherish that very first moment where I saw something that I spent a few hours and weeks working on to be able to be live and be useful to a few other folks who had interest in this. So right after developing the Geek Culture app, at the same time, I still had like some ideas itching in my head. And I remember at the time, there was a first 3D movie cinema in Mozambique that launched, and I got so fascinated by the technology that I spent all my time and like money at the time in the cinemas watching movies. And so that actually ended up making my friends rely on me to understand what was going on at the cinemas and what was playing, what time it was playing. So I was like, at some point, I thought that was not scalable. So I ended up like deciding to think about an app to build for myself and my friends that would show us what was playing on the cinemas, get the times, and let them plan ahead. And what ended up happening with this is that I started developing it in the open, and my friends started to request more and more features. And at some time, we ended up really started to sell tickets for these movies. And it was super interesting challenge to be able to meet people. This was basically my first and biggest experiment of how I would like to build a startup, because I think I spent like 2 or 3 years working on this and was not necessarily profitable, but the lessons I've learned from building the technical stuff of this business from the back end to the mobile app to having like a small team and doing all of a lot of kind of like sales was a very invaluable experience. And one thing that I started realizing is that I was gaining a lot of knowledge and I needed some way to kind of like refine it and consolidate even better for me. So I decided to do some technical writing, and this was heavily focused on Android development, because for me it was kind of like super hard. As I mentioned, Portuguese is my first language, and I had to learn Android. Basically, all the documentation was in English. So it was hard, fun, but at the same time, I felt like it was a barrier for every other folks back in Mozambique. So I decided to start writing technical blog posts in Portuguese. And writing this technical blog posts attracted like-minded people back in Mozambique that we eventually ended up creating the developer community in Mozambique. And the first community was MozDevs, which was basically the Ministry of Science and Technology, again, was trying to help and with resources that we need to run meetups and organize hackathons. So we did a lot of hackathons organizations. And then after some time, I ended up meeting some folks at Google who introduced me to the GDG the Google Developer Groups and ended up creating the first Google Developer Group chapter in Maputo. So this was a very fun time to be in. And one of the interesting things about starting communities is that they always start small. And I say it's like always like-minded people. And this is one of the examples how our meetups look like in the past. I forgot to put a picture of like how they look like 2 years ago. And even now, whenever I go back to Mozambique, we're talking about hundreds of people in some meetups. But in the beginning, it was just like the few of us. And this is one thing that I really cherish, is that it was never about the numbers, but just like being able to be with people that have the same interests like you, and you like working with them and talking with them. So like this is one of the early pictures of one of the Google Developer Groups meetup. And the other interesting thing is that as this community grew, I was always in touch with Misho and Tiani back in South Africa. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to kind of like create this interchange, this exchange culture between both of our communities and countries. So for a few times, we ended up traveling back to South Africa for few hackathons and meeting the folks at MLab. And as always, I can't stress how these were so adventurous and super fun, from like traveling throughout all the night and arrive at 4 a.m. to be able to get to a hackathon, which was supposed to not get some sleep, and then go through the hackathon with some fun and building some cool stuff. There's always like amazing stuff we did while building the community in Mozambique. So all this community activity pretty much landed me into the eyes of some folks from the Google Developer Relations team. And basically I was invited to the Google Developer Expert Program as an Android expert. And the GDE program is basically a program that Google recognizes people that are technically strong and very, and that like to share with the community what they know, and basically give them a recognition and the opportunity to travel and share what they know with different people across the world and across Africa. And throughout the GDE program, I had the chance to pretty much travel all Africa and meet a lot of folks from different parts. And again, the highlight of all this was always like looking at how the community behaves and how a lot of these things were only possible because there were these strong communities in place that grew by lifting up each other. So I think a year or two after being part of the Google Developer Expert, again, I'm trying to create a chronological order into these things, but a lot of these things were actually happening at the same time. So I joined the Google Developer Expert Program. I was still running my startup, and there was a whole Seed Stars chapter in there. But right at the end of 2016, I got the opportunity to go to work at Shopify. And so went through all the regular interview process. And the only reason I was able to get in touch with Shopify is that one of the GDEs used to work at Shopify. So I ended up giving a recommendation to me. And I took the interviews, went through the process, and I found like it was a really interesting opportunity to join a company like Shopify. And mainly the reason, I would say, the main reason why I joined Shopify is because how impactful it is to people's lives. It is really nice to work on something that you know that has a direct impact in someone else's livelihood. And the other thing that I only came to kind of like really like in hindsight is like the idea of learning super fast. When I joined Shopify, it was at a time where it was growing like crazy, and there is so much stuff to do. And even today, there's still a lot of stuff to do. But at the time, I felt like the pace was super, super fast. Maybe I became stronger now to kind of like follow up with the pace, but at that time was really, really daunting because there was so much to learn through meeting people, through meeting some of our merchants and building stuff. And so I had to learn how to learn very, very fast and be okay with kind of like being uncomfortable like that. So looking back, there is a lot of things that happened that if you see it, the story as kind of like a wall now, it almost feels like, oh, these pieces were really well connected and he really knew what he was doing. But to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. And like, I even kind of want to bet that knowing what I have to do, like knowing what I know now and how I am right now, like I would probably, if I try to go back and redo the same path to get to the same result, I will probably fail. And the reason for that is because now that I know which result would I be getting, I would probably start focusing more on the results and rather than the process. And I feel like one of the things that got me here was that I was able to focus on one thing at a time and the next thing that I wanted to do for that specific moment in my life. So while the results is nice, and while I really wish that everyone watching this presentation have some high aspirations about what they want to do for their careers and have a really good livelihood for themselves, I feel like focusing on the process itself kind of like can get distracting. It's great to dream of the outcomes that you will have while doing these things, but at the same time, like focusing on what's next or the next small thing that you can do is probably the one advice that I would like to give here. And there are a few things that I wanted to, there are a few kind of like principles that I have that I would probably give to myself if I had a chance to go back. And the first one is curiosity. So as I mentioned, like back with the story of how I met Aubrey, at the time I was just curious to how Android worked. Before Android, there was the whole Symbian on Nokia's and stuff. And up until that point, I was not super curious about what these devices could do. But I remember watching some videos on the first Android phones at the time, and fun story, like the first Android phone that I played with was with my girlfriend at the time, which ended up becoming my wife. And I was super curious about her phone at the time because it has some really cool stuff. I think it was a Galaxy S2. So I started to dig into what that phone could do and what are the things you could learn from there. That was one instance. But then again, at the Geek Culture experience, I was super curious to know how people are interacting with each other. How can I find ways to better understand what's going on in geek culture, and really just ask as many questions as I could to be able to understand something new. And the other thing that I wanted to say about curiosity is that most of the times it feels, at least for us geeks, it feels like we should be curious only about technical stuff. But just don't be afraid to be curious about stuff that are not directly related to tech, and just learn about other stuff in life. Like I come across myself looking at different things. Like I really like movies, as I mentioned before. So I used to spend some time like just looking up about how it's a process of making a movie. I've grew to learn more about like being super interested in economics and stuff. So like whatever you feel passionate and like really compelled to learn about, just go about learning it and don't really worry about how that's going to help you in the future, because sometimes it will and sometimes it will not. And I'm going to get back to that point on the next tip. And I would say build. Build as many things as you can. Don't really worry about what is the outcome that thing is going to give you as you build it. You never know how that's going to help you. And again, going back to focusing on the process and not the results. When I built the Geek Culture app, I just wanted to build something. I just really wanted to flex my Android skills. I just wanted to like build something that other folks could use, but it could have amounted to nothing. But I feel like down the road, it has amounted to so many things. I still have the Geek Culture app experience in my resume today because it's just one of the experience that I really like to talk about, just about building the app and why we built it. And it really had some technical lessons that I've kept to myself till today, and I even share with some of my coworkers from time to time whenever we find some issues. So like, take time to build whatever interests you. Again, it doesn't really have to be the technology that you're most comfortable with. Just find a challenge, build something, and most of the cases, you'll just learn a lot of things. There's this concept that I've learned that we should treat life and pretty much everything as experiments, because the whole idea of an experiment is that you'll never fail. You either validate the hypothesis that you have, that is true, or it's false. But in either cases, you learn something new. So it's the same thing with building. You're going to build something and you either validate that it works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you're probably going to gain some insight that will allow you to go and build something else, or go back to the first point and be curious about something, another thing. So the last point is to give back to the community. So I grew up Catholic, and one of the things that I used to say in the Sunday school was singing equals to praying twice. And I kind of took that and really translated into another kind of like context where sharing what you know is learning twice. And I really use this trick a lot. And it's kind of like why I started, that's why I started like teaching some technical, writing some technical posts, because I felt that the process of communicating and like consolidating all the things that I've learned actually helped me like learn more about the things that I thought I knew by sharing with other person and allowing that person to kind of like understand my own take on a specific point. So don't be afraid to share what you know. The same way you're starting somewhere right now and you're learning from someone else, as you grow, there's always going to be someone else coming up and they will be eager to learn from you. So don't be afraid to share your take, even if there are tons of articles on the internet about a specific topic. Your own point of view is super important. And it's another way of kind of like scaling this thing, because basically when you write a post, that post can be read by thousands of people across Africa and across the world. And basically you spent 1 hour, and now this 1 hour is being replicated throughout many that people will be able to consume your content. So that's really a good way to kind of like make an impact at scale. So, and finally, be patient and enjoy the ride. And when I first learned about this whole idea of enjoying the ride, I thought that the word enjoy was misleading, because I thought I was supposed to like have fun and everything was going to be okay at all the times. But enjoying, meaning I would say I would change enjoy by being present in the ride, because there's days that are going to be sunny, there are days that are going to be fun, there are days that are going to be like really, really stressful. But all those experiences, if you kind of like try to stay a little bit in the moment and not get caught up in all of them, you'll find that the most exciting parts of your years are going to be all those ones, even the bad times, instead of like whatever the result that you set out to achieve. So basically, these are the few things that I wanted to share. And I just a kind of a recap, would ask you to be curious, build stuff, share with the community, and be patient and enjoy the ride. So this was kind of like my journey, and I'm really pleased to be able to share this story with you. And I really hope that this was going to be a useful thing for you at some point in your life. Thank you very much. And if you really want to get the conversation going, on Twitter, Dario Mungoy, just like on this slide, or you can send me an email, and I'll do my best to try to answer as quickly as possible. I would say like Twitter is probably the cheat code to be able to reach out to me faster. So thank you very much, Tiani, Misha, and the Geek Culture community for this invite to be able to talk with you all.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Dario. And without further ado, guys, we're about to get into the main ceremony, what this event is all about. But before I introduce our announcer, I would just like to quickly mention exactly what the categories are. So number one, we have best GKSS female leader, and that'll be announced by Ms. Doreen Mukwena. Then we have best industry partner, and that'll be announced by Ms. Ketumetse Tsotetse. And then we have Best Project Startup Created. That'll be announced by Mr. Mukondli Dumela. The fourth one will be Best Support Lecturer. That will be announced by Ms. Lizette Mukeba from Geek Culture. And then our fifth one will be Best Industry/Government Mentor. And that again will be announced by Ms. Ketumetse. And then our sixth announcement will be Best GKSS Chapter of 2020. And that'll be announced by none other than the Geek Culture Community Manager, Mr. Kingsley Kwedi, also known as Skinny. And then last but not least, we'll have our address and leader of the year, which will be done by Dr. McLean Sibanda. So without further ado, after this break, we'll be joined by Mr. Reem Mukwena.
All right, Shaka, are you ready? Aibu. Shaka? Seems like you're muted, eh? Oh, there you are. Oh, ooh, okay, fancy offices.
I'm so salty.
Let me just plug you in and then ensure that the camera is.
T, tell me, do I go straight to the announcement?
No, remember, you can just obviously start the introduction, and then also what challenge do you have for female geeks, you know? What do they need to ensure that they
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Doreen Mukwena. I am the CEO of CyberSec Clinic, a startup that I just put up not so long ago. And today I'm so honored and so proud and privileged to be part of the awards. And I would like to congratulate Geek Culture and all the participants. It's been a very tough year for all of us. And COVID-19 has pushed us beyond boundaries, and it has really accelerated the tech in South Africa and in the presence that we all have today. And today I'm here to announce the best female leader. But before I do so, I would like to say that the recent participation of women within the tech industry has proven beyond reasonable doubt that we as women are actually entering the scene and we are harnessing the space. And if there's one thing that we all needed to do was to bridge the gender gap, because men representation was utmost and women only took about 10% of representation within the tech space. This was actually evident during hackathons and tech conferences that there's not much women representation, and organizations like Geek Culture and the rest are proving to us that we can still bridge the gender gap. And I would like to encourage each and every woman out there, each and every girl child in university, at school, in kindergarten, someone who's writing up that business proposal, not to stop. It only starts when it starts. And today, without no further ado, we would then like to announce the best female GKSS leader of 2020. This award is in recognition and need to both the balance in the sector. This award will be given to a female leader who has served as an inspiration to other students in saying we are doing it ourselves. So without no further ado, please play the video. Before I actually announced the winner, I would like to congratulate each and every nominee. You were nominated because you are making strides in your respective sector and in your respective department. And we wish everyone, especially the nominees, good luck with everything that you guys seek to engage in. And with no further ado, and the best GKS female leader of 2020 is, drumroll please, Ms. Amantle Mashele. She is the chairperson of GKSS chapter at Belgium campus and a recently elected deputy president of the SRC. Congratulations, Madam President. Yay! And she's one of my mentees during hackathons. I'm so proud of you. You've done absolutely amazing, Mrs. Vice President.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Doreen. And a big congratulations to Amantle. As you can see, my dog is also celebrating. He is very happy for you, Amantle. Awesome. So up next, we will have the announcement for, our next announcer will be Ms. Kate Mete from Geek Culture. She is the CIO at Geek Culture, and she'll be announcing the best industry partner. So after this break, please stay tuned to find out who is the best industry partner.
community holistically. I always talk about IT like the medical field, where you can't be sure what somebody's doing unless they're very specific about that. And something that's important that that industry partners bring is the knowledge to our students, to our community, about the options that actually exist in the tech industry. And over above that as well, the networking opportunities. I think I can't emphasize the importance of getting yourself out there and networking with the professionals. So a big portion of what we do at Geek Culture is bridging the gap. And it's always so easy to talk about how industry might not be pulling their weight, but I think being in the back end of things and really seeing how motivated everyone is and how determined, even through conflicts, we're able to come together and build the tech structure. Business industry partners really do play a critical role in networking, as I've said, in upskilling, in opening the eyes of our geeks in terms of what their options are in both the technical and non-technical components of the IT space. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce you to the nominees of this award for the Best Industry Partner. All right, and the winner of this award is IT Web Brainstorm. So, congratulations to IT Web Brainstorm. I think we're aware of the critical role that they've played in terms of facilitating hackathons, in terms of giving a space for us to also communicate what we are doing as well, in terms of delivering news, in terms of aligning to our vision, in terms of empowering geeks. I can't even speak about the number of employment opportunities that have been created through this partnership. So congratulations to you guys, and great stuff.
We've spoken about our industry partners. We've spoken about our best female leader. So what's next? Well, up next is the award for best startup, for best project startup created. And this will be presented by none other than Mr. Mukondli Dumela, the founder of the Sitsonga Translator app. So after the break, we'll be joined by Mukondli.
Good evening. I'm Mukondli Dumela. I hope everyone can hear me. I am here to present to you the Best Project or Startup Award, which is going to go to leaders who build a solution during a hackathon. This solution can have to do with solving any of the issues that we face as a society. Obviously, it's been a tough year on everyone given the COVID pandemic, but one of the things that you see is that whenever there is a pandemic, it does not necessarily suspend other issues that you face in society. So issues like education, issues of crime and poverty, those issues still remain and we still face them during pandemic. So this award is going to people that even in the midst of a pandemic managed to work through a solution, and they worked through this solution during a hackathon. Without further ado, here are your nominees. All right, welcome back. Leaders who've worked on a solution during this trying time and have done so exceptionally. Your winner is She, for working on the application that was combating gender-based violence, and they developed this application at the UNISA chapter during Microsoft Safe at Home hackathon. I want to say congratulations to you for tackling such an important issue. And given that we just started with the 16 days of activism against abuse of women and children, it is befitting that you win this award, and I congratulate you and your team.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Mkonli, and congratulations to Team She. Without further ado, we'll jump straight to our next award, which will be announced by Ms. Lizette Mukeba from Geek Culture, and she will be announcing who the best support lecturer is. So without further ado, off to you, Lizette.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you are doing well. My name is Lizette Mukeba. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lizette Mukeba. I'm a junior system developer at Geek Culture. I'm very honored to announce the Best Support Lecturer. And the Best Support Lecturer Award goes to Mr. Eva Mamabolo from the Sol Plains University.
mentor is. So after this ad break, we'll switch over to you, Katie.
Hi everyone, me again. So it seems I'm here with all the sentimental awards. This one speaks to the best industry and government mentor. Once again, I think, these are individuals that really go above and beyond what is expected of them and extend themselves way further than what we would anticipate in wanting to, as Dario said, give back to the community, impart knowledge. I think what he said is when you teach, you learn twice. And these are people who are always keen to be involved in all initiatives, who are always readily available for opinions, who are always readily available, whether it's for judging at hackathons, for mentoring, for giving up their time as well, giving up their personal contacts just so that they can say, hey, I'm here, I know some things. And I think something that's really great that I've experienced is how they also acknowledge how much they have learned from geeks as well, which is quite interesting. I think what we must always remember from a mentoring perspective is that you are not always the one imparting the knowledge, but you might also be learning, which is beneficial for the rest of the people that you will be mentoring as well. But I think I really just want to give a big thank you to everybody who's been nominated, just for giving up your personal time and giving back to everybody. You've probably touched lives in ways that you might not even know and have not anticipated just by sharing a conversation with our geeks. So our nominees for this award are the following people. All right, so very interestingly, actually, we have a tie, which I think is warranted because there's so many great people. But one of our winners is Mr. Steve Jump. He's the founding and managing director at Custodians. And the other winner that we have is Dr. Paul Plantinga, who's a research specialist at the Human Science Research Council. So congratulations to you both. And as I've said, thank you so much. So apparently our digital fossil, Mr. Steve Jump, and the good doctor of open data, Dr. Paul Plantinga, those are our winners for this award. And thank you very much.
Awesome stuff, guys. There you have it. Awesome. That was an awesome tie. I know both mentors personally, and I myself have gained a lot of experience from them and asking questions at hackathons when I have the opportunity. And I encourage you to next year if you do get that opportunity. So without further ado, we are halfway done with our announcements, and we're actually going to switch up the vibe. So we're going to do something different. We're going to play a performance video made by none other than Mr. Skinny Sugar.
Okay, I see Dr. Sivanda.
It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I'm a geek, cause I be coding every week. When I'm down on my knees, I pray hard for the geek. Cause I'm a geek, cause I be coding every week. When I'm down on my knees, I pray hard for the geek. The route is so slight, I can't connect. The microphone is straight that I can't even hear. The second shut down, there's no energy. We are the geeks. We got a power the city. Cause when I hit the corn with the geeks that you know, baby. Cause I be coding every week. Cause when I hit the corn every week. Cause I hit the what? I hit the corn with the geeks. It's the hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I be coding every week. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I'm down on my knees. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I be coding every week. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Yeah. I hit the one with the electric power. No time for flowers. We code for hours. Look at the things that we make. Look at the things that we do. They thought they were crazy. They started calling us fools. Cause when I'm down on my knees, I be praying for the kids. Cause it's a hackathon. I'm gonna hack until the hackers can't hack no more. I'm gonna code until the coders can't code no more. Cause it's a hackathon. This is the what? Yeah. Cause I be coding every week. Cause right get it. It's like girls on tech. Right get it. Woman in tech. Right get it. Girls on sex, I hit the corn, what? I hit the corn where we like Bona batalla like a technology, hata ba feta batina bara get to go low. What? Send like a speed, 47, we coding like C-sharp, hitting it there when all we are. All the talk about JavaScript, the hata batalla feta. Cause when I hit the corn with the geeks that you know, baby. Cause I be coding every week. When I hit the corn every week. Cause I hit the what? I hit the corn with the geeks. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I be coding every week. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I'm down on my knees. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I be coding every week. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. I hit the button with the geeks. I'm a geek. I'm a web geek. We are geeks. Like dance geeks. We combining music with technology. It's gonna be like ICT music. No, music ICT. You know what I mean? Like ICT, man. IT, geeks, music, and all this stuff. ICT coding with C# and JavaScript, Arduino, HTML. Man, I'm a geek. We are geeks. Hashtag GK Hack 16. Why is?
Awesome stuff. And there you have it, guys. A blast from the past. One last performance from Mr. Skinny Sugar to end off the GKSS year. And without further ado, we're going to go to our next announcement, which will be announced by none other than the performer himself, Mr. Kingsley Kwedi, also known as Skinny. So after this break, we'll be going over to Skinny, who will be telling us who the best GKSS chapter of 2020 is.
Good evening, everybody, and I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Kinshio Khwedi, and I am the community manager and system developer at Geek Culture, and also the musician. And today, it's quite an honor to be telling you guys about the winners. So this chapter, it's called the Best GKSS Chapter of 2020. This chapter has been made a great strides to uplift and also empower students and also give them access to opportunity throughout the campus. You know, these chapters have been helping out students on campuses and also outside campuses. You know, bringing in the communities and also introducing them to technology. And it was quite a great year for them since it was locked down. They've also been using some of the online tools to actually, push and also empower other students on how to use tools. And the nominees are welcome back, and I would like to let you guys know that we don't have one winner, but we actually have two winners in this category. So the first team or the first chapter to win this, congratulations to the Geek Culture Student Society Tshwane University of Technology in Soshanguve, Gauteng Province, and the Geek Culture Student Society Soul Plug University in Kimberley, the Northern Cape Province. Whoop whoop! Thank you guys, and also keep on doing great work, and we would like to see more of your great work also next year. And please make sure that you empower more students, and we'd like to see more GKSS members from next year. Thank you guys.
Awesome. And there you have it, guys. The best two GKSS chapters of the year, folks. I do encourage you, idea of Geek Culture Student Societies. Tell a friend at TVET College at the university that doesn't yet have a Geek Culture Student Society. And let's continue to build and enable capacity for students wherever it may be. Right, and we're approaching finally the last part of the evening, and our next announcer, who will be addressing us, is Dr. McLean Sibanda, and he will tell us who the leader of the year is. So after this break, we'll be joined by Dr. McLean Sibanda. So stay tuned.
For
Great. Good evening, everyone. And first of all, congratulations to all the nominees and the winners, this evening. And it's an honor for me to be part of these particular proceedings. And today, also a big congratulations to the founders of the Geek Culture Student Society, GKSS, which has now been running for 5 years. So this is actually an important, milestone, and so congratulations, Tiani and Misho, for the great work, that you've done with Geek Culture. So I've been asked to speak to you for about 10 minutes, and earlier I asked Tiani, what should I speak? What should I talk about? And says, well, maybe tell us about your journey. And so, after much deliberation, I would do a mix between my own journey and, in essence, celebrating what I believe are people that often are not celebrated. And I think it's important for us to be able to celebrate those that have gone before us, particularly those that have laid the course for others to be able to pick up and run the race. And so I'd like to start off, first of all, by celebrating Tiani and Misho for having started Geek Culture. I can recall during my days when I was CEO of the Innovation Hub, and I used to see these two young men, around, the precinct at the Innovation Hub, and I actually, started to find out what do they actually do, and we got to know each other, and over time, I was actually inspired by their passion, their selflessness, and their dream to make a difference to other young people. And today, there are over 30 chapters of the Geek Culture Student Society throughout the country. And I think it's a tribute, in essence, to that particular dream, that vision that was laid out, way back then. I think it must have been around about 2011, 2012, when the dream of Geek Culture was actually born. And there's many young people, today out in industry that have gone through Geek Culture. My son has also come to Geek Culture during VECWEC and has been inspired by the great work that Geek Culture actually do. I've witnessed 12-year-olds being part of the Geek Culture vacation work. And I think the Student Society is actually an important part of the work of Geek Culture, because we have to reflect in terms of what are the jobs of tomorrow and how do we prepare ourselves and the young people for the jobs of tomorrow. And that preparation, in essence, starts at home in some cases, but in most cases, we lack the ability to be able to start that preparation at home. And therefore, Geek Culture Student Society offers that opportunity for many young people to start to inculcate a culture of being entrepreneurial and being innovative and being, geeks, and realizing that the digital economy is here and that there's a room and an opportunity for them to be able to participate in the fourth industrial revolution. I had prepared a couple of slides, which maybe let me just, put up a couple of slides. It may not, work. Let me just see. No, so it won't work. So let me just quickly talk through the 3 slides or so that I put together. The one is the power of one. So I think that the story and the lessons that we can learn from the founders of Geek Culture is that you don't have to be part of a crowd to start something. All you have to do is have a vision, have a dream, and your dream is valid. And once you have that dream, you need to pursue that dream, resiliently and persistently. And I've seen, these 2 young people, Tiani and Misho, pursuing that particular dream. They've faced serious challenges along the way. In certain cases, they've been disappointed by people that are meant to support them. I was the CEO of the Innovation Hub, and I saw how some of my own management actually disappointed them, but they kept on going. They did not let those challenges actually stop them from doing what they actually wanted to do. In life, you're going to have to make choices. You have to decide. You cannot sit on the fence. Sitting on the fence is a decision. So I think it's quite important to be able to learn to make decisions. And once you've made a decision, you have to follow through. Some decisions are not going to be the right decisions, but you can only learn, right further down the line that decision was not the right decision. And I've seen Tiani and Misho learn from some of the bad decisions that they've made, along the way. And in the book, there's a book that I'll be publishing in the next month. We'll be unveiling that particular book in 2 weeks' time. We capture the story of gig culture and a reflection in terms of my relationship with gig culture. The next lesson that I want to perhaps point out to is that hard work never killed anyone. So there will be times when you are not motivated. So you will never be always motivated. So you need to learn to be disciplined. And accordingly, when you learn to be disciplined, you'll be able to soldier on and do more things. And just remember that average is an insult. So you are not born to be average. So whenever you find yourself settling for being average, remember that you are not born to be average. So never settle, for average. The next one is really around humility, and I think that Tiani and Misho have been able to achieve what they've been able to do because of this one particular trait. They are humble. But humbleness does not mean that you're weak. And I think when you look at them, it's a clear example that these people are humble, but yet they are strong. They've got strong personalities. They know what they want to do. They know what they want to achieve. And I think quite importantly is that you've got to be fierce. You must be fierce. You must be deliberate in terms of your actions. And as you go out into the world, for some of you that are graduating this year and you go out into the greater world, some of you are going to be looking for jobs. You may not find the jobs, but be deliberate, be fierce. Know that you have a role in society. And some of you are destined to be entrepreneurs. And so pursue your journey of being an entrepreneur. And I think the last message that I want to talk to is that you've got to believe. And you must believe that God does not create junk. And I am proof that God is able, and God that does not create junk. I was born in Zimbabwe, way back to a very poor household. I used to go to school. In essence, I had one pair of shoes, and I had one pair of shorts. And a t-shirt and a shirt, for school, and I'll come back and I'd have to take that. And in essence, I'd be walking, barefoot. I would, sell, fruits, vegetables in the gate at our home. And I used to help, my parents with, other things, entrepreneurial. And I was lucky. And I managed to get a scholarship to a better school. And at that particular school, I started the first business, which was cutting hair. And then my second business was making sandwiches. And in due time, I started tennis coaching. By the time I moved to Wits in '89, I was ready, in essence, for the bigger world. And I realized that much of the journey I'm going to have to walk alone. And in that particular journey of walking alone, I managed to also start a tennis coaching business that by the time I started as an engineer at De Beers, I was earning more money from my coaching practice as a tennis professional coach at Wits than I was earning as an engineer. And from De Beers, I then studied further and went to Adams & Adams. I became a patent attorney. At the time, I qualified as the first Black patent attorney. But over time, I realized that it doesn't mean anything to be the first if you're not going to do anything with that particular privilege. So I worked hard to be able to bring on board other Black patent attorneys Today, I can count over 10 Black patent attorneys in the country that have come through a program that we established. And I remember that someone believed in me at primary school, my primary school headmaster, and he said in one of the testimonies to the high school that this young man is going to go all the way, to the top and get a doctorate. And that thing remained in me, and eventually in 2018, I managed to get a PhD. And so you can see that your past does not define your future. So it is not important how you started. I think what is important is how you finish off in life. And so I hope that my story can be able to inspire some of you. And the stories of people like Tiani and Misho and some of the leaders that we see coming out through the Geek Culture Student Society. Their stories are an inspiration to many. And just remember that as much as you are inspired by other people, there are other people as well that are looking up to you. So already you are a winner, and the future is yours, and you've got to make it count. You've got to make it count, and so therefore your actions have got to be deliberate. And so with that, I'd like to then, Tiani, move over to the next part of this particular proceedings, which is announcing the Geek Culture Student Society Leader of the Year for 2020. So thank you very much, Program Director, and over to you, or should I continue to announce the Geek Culture Leader of the Year 2020?
Let's go to
And so there you have it, the nominees for the Geek Culture Students Society Leader of the Year for 2020. And congratulations to all those nominees. And the winner for 2020 is Miss Yolanda Mabusela, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the Geek Culture Student Society chapter at the Vaal University of Technology. Congratulations, and thank you very much, Program Director, and congratulations to everyone.
Awesome stuff. Congratulations to Yolanda Mabusela for being the GKSS Leader of the Year. And I encourage all the other leaders to continue working hard, to continue putting in the hard work. And from Dr. McLean Sibanda, thank you for those words of encouragement. And I hope that our leaders take that with them into the new year. without further ado, we would like to end the ceremony off with a couple of sweet words, from none other than the CEO of Geek Culture. He is my mentor, he is my boss. It's Mr. Misho Ngoveni.
Two minutes, right? Good evening, everyone. Thank you once again to the Geek Culture team for putting up the Geek Culture Student Society Awards. But before we actually wrap up, I just want to acknowledge everyone that took part, all the people that nominated. We really appreciate all the people that went out and nominated, that shared the work, but also to acknowledge all the different chapters, whether you were nominated, whether you were a finalist, a winner, just all the different chapters that we have across all 9 provinces. We want to thank you guys for all the hard work. The new ones, welcome to the Geek Culture world. As you might have seen this year, it is a crazy community. It is a crazy world, this Geek Culture world. But thank you for putting up with us, and thank you for all your efforts. Thank you for mobilizing other young people. But most importantly, thank you for sharing all the necessary information with other young people. That is what Geek Culture is really all about. That is the core essence of Geek Culture and the Geek Culture Student Society, to bring in more young people that do not have access to all these resources and information that we have. So for that, kudos to you guys. Congrats to all the winners, well deserved. You guys have stood out. You guys have pushed a lot. And also just want to acknowledge all the different partners, mentors and lecturers, whether they've won or not, that have been involved in this year edition of the Geek Culture Student Society. We really appreciate that. I know I've mentioned this, but I just want to give props to the Geek Culture team as well for putting this up. Mr. Gabriel, thank you for facilitating. The production team, I won't mention them by name simply because there is something coming up. So when we were done here, please just stay for a few seconds so you can see all the people that were involved in the project. Thank you for the social media team for pushing out the content, creating awareness, and all the different judges. So we really appreciate your efforts and your time as well for helping select the best candidates for this year. Cannot take away the spotlight from the speakers. I mean, there was a lot that we heard from speakers all the way from London. I mean, there's a great stuff that we learned in terms of, I think the biggest takeaway for me is, as young Africans, we have to build the world that we want. We have an opportunity to lead the digital space. We had all the way from Canada with Dario, his journey. I think let's not, I like the fact that he didn't want to focus too much on Spotify, on Shopify, simply because he wanted us to take us through the journey and also lessons from there. And we thank you to all the different speakers. I might have left you out behind, but I just want to manage time as well. Other than that, someone asked where the after party is. We'll hear where that is. But other than that, guys, we're really looking forward to a great new year next year. Be part of the community, spread the word. New chapters will be evolving. A couple of things will be lined up, and it'll be great to have you guys as part of this community, parts of this movement that we call Geek Culture. Thank you guys for the great. Have yourself a great evening. Don't drink and text. Have a good evening.
It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I'm a geek, cause I be coding every week. When I'm down on my knees, I pray hard for the geeks. Cause I'm a geek, cause I be coding every week. When I'm down on my knees, I pray hard for the geeks. Like the router so slight, I can't connect. The microphone is straight that I can't even hear. The second shut down, there's no energy. We are the geeks. We got a power the city. Cause when I hit the corn with the geeks that you know, baby. Cause I be coding every week. Cause when I hit the corn every week. Cause I hit the what? I hit the corn with the geeks. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I be coding every week. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I'm down on my knees. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Cause I be coding every week. It's a hackathon. It's a hackathon. Yeah. I hit the one with a electric power. No time for flowers. We code for hours. Look at the things that we make. Look at the things that we do. They thought that we're crazy. They start calling us fools. Cause when I'm down on my knees, I be praying for the kids. Cause it's a hackathon. I'm gonna hack until the hackers can't hack no more. I'm gonna code until the coders can't cook no more. Cause it's a hackathon. Cause it's a what? Yeah. Cause I be coding every week. Cause right get it. It's like girls on tech. Right get it. Woman in tech. Right get it. Girls on sex, I hit the corn, what? I hit the corn where we like buona badala ka technology, hata ba feta ba na bara get to go low. What? Sana ka speed, 4 to 7, we going in like C-sharp, hitting it there with no